help with them, Mrs. Cord?
Oh, I can handle it, Marshal. You should know by now I'm not a lady. I'm a journalist.
All right, suit yourself.
Oh, by the way, Marshal, have you started looking for another line of work yet?
Well, that ain't gonna be necessary.
So Mr. Jordan's bought you out, too.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, ma'am.
This is an election, Marshal Craddock, and everybody gets bought somehow.
Never had a mayor before. Don't see why we need one now.
Your town's growing up. You may not want to get left behind.
Marie?
Yes, Diane?
What do you think will happen if Mr. Jordan wins?
I honestly think that nothing will change.
How can you say that? He'll turn the town on its ear. Nothing will be the same if Henry Jordan becomes mayor.
Are you sure you want my opinion?
Could one of you ladies give me a hand with these?
Certainly a lot of news for a small town.
Just more news on the one-horse race you call an election. I think a town this size could field more than one candidate for mayor.
Alexandra,
Yes, Marie, what is it?
the newspaper office, it's on fire.
Wait outside, ma'am.
It's my office.
Stand back! Don't go in here, man!
Do you have any idea who did this?
Well, from what I've heard about this newspaper, anyone who can read might have done it.
Well, that would leave you out, wouldn't it, Marshal?
Well, whoever did it had no intention of burning it to the ground.
What are you talking about?
Well, if they wanted to destroy this office, they wouldn't have done it in the middle of the day. Mrs. Cord, you realize that this was just a warning.
They can warn all they want. I have no intention of shutting down this newspaper.
I don't know why you won't run.
I'm a saloon keeper, Diane.
If Jordan wins, this town will become nothing more than a supply camp for his ranch. A town full of cowboys and drunkards.
Good for business.
Zach Denny! I thought you wanted to live in a town you could be proud of. A town with a church, families, why, a school someday. Fine. In 2 years, when no one can recognize this town, you can tell everyone that you didn't do anything about it because you, Mr. Denny, well, you had a saloon to operate.
Well, Mr. Jordan, it's looking pretty much like a shoe-in.
This is politics, Jeffries. Nothing is a shoe-in. Lies. I could bring people here, make the local merchants rich, She acts as if I want to destroy this town.
Bet you can't stick to clucking around the stove with the rest of them hens.
No, sir, not one like her. Find out how bad the damage to her place was.
Say, Mr. Jordan, you thought any more about making me marshal?
I told you, Jeffries. If I win, you get the job. And that is not a for sure yet.
What are you doing back in town, Jeffries?
Just meeting the citizens, Marshal. Mr. Jordan, I'm surprised that a man like yourself would be troubled by a newspaper.
What are you talking about, Corporal?
Someone set fire to the Frontier News today.
I hope you're not seriously accusing me.
I can think of few people with better reason to see Mrs. Scord stop publishing.
Corporal, this is an American election. I could care less what's written about me in a Canadian newspaper.
Where were you this afternoon?
Why, Mr. Danziger was out at the ranch fixing a couple of spokes on my wagon. I never left his side.
I'll be checking with him.
You do that, Marshal. Seeing as how it could well be your last official piece of business. Oh, didn't I tell you, Corporal? After the election, Mr. Jeffries here is going to be the Marshal's successor.
My husband was a typical journalist. When he died, all he owned was his printing press.
Alexandra, why are you fighting so hard against Jordan?
I had to move up to Canada because of threats made by men like him. Besides, a little mudslinging keeps people interested in the paper.
There must be more than that.
Yes, well, I'm still naive enough to believe we can find a politician who works for everyone's interests, not just his own.
Why don't you just report the facts?
Fact is just one person's way of looking at a thing. Each person describes it differently.
And your description is the right one.
I didn't say it was the right one. But I'm the one who owns this.
Is that all that matters?
Marie, you've been out here too long. You've lost your sense of humor.
Well, it's just a job, ain't it? No big deal.
He hasn't won yet.
He's the only candidate, though. You know, come to think of it, this is the longest I ever held any job, except the Army. I think the pay was the same, too.
This here's a pigsty. You won't object to me cleaning it up, will you, Corporal?
How come you ain't out shooting at farmers there, Jeffries?
Just taking a look around, Marshal.
Well, maybe you've looked around enough, huh, Jeffries?
I'll leave when I'm ready, partner.
You're no partner of mine. Get out.
I'll be back, Corporal. As your equal.
You know, all of a sudden, you don't seem so bad.
I don't suppose that newspaper of yours has got any advertisements for help needed, does it?
Why, are you planning on taking up reading, Marshal?
Could be looking for other employment.
If Jordan wins, he's hiring Hank Jeffries as marshal.
Would he do that?
Well, he'd be stupid not to want a marshal with the same views he holds. And I certainly wouldn't call Mr. Jordan a decent man.
So, you're saying I am?
No. But you have potential.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please?
Diane, what are you doing?
I heard Corporal Bennett say Jordan was going to make Hank Jeffries the new marshal.
Jeffries?
You are going to change that.
Diane,
If you don't, who will?
I ain't no politician.
You are now, honey.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our newest candidate for mayor of Bordertown, Mr. Zach Denny.
My friends, I don't really have any great plans for Bordertown. I would just like to see it remain a people town, you know, and not a cow town. Not a cow town.
Henry Jordan thinks we should increase the ranch lands.
Zach Denny thinks that Mr. Jordan is wrong. Because he ain't been around here long enough to know any different, right? Right.
Maybe I won't have to train a new marshal.
Hush up, Bennett. I'm trying to listen to the man.
But I will tell you one thing. It does rankle me when a newcomer comes into town and starts telling us local folks how to run their business. Huh?
Yeah.
So I say to heck with Mr. Jordan and his new ideas. Bordertown is just fine the way it is.
Oh, that's my Zach.
Best headline I've written all month.
Thank you, folks. Thank you. Zach Denny won't let you down. I promise.
Frontier News. Latest edition. Yep.
Corporal, I do not want that paper coming across the border. That woman is interfering with an American election, and I would appreciate it if you Canadians just stay out of it.
I recall hearing you say you didn't care about a Canadian newspaper.
She is slandering me.
Mr. Jordan, even if I wanted to, it's not possible for me to stop the distribution of that newspaper.
And arrest her.
On what charge, Jeffries?
Libel, or whatever it takes.
Mr. Jordan, I don't propose to run your campaign for you. But don't you think you should fight your opponent and not the messenger?
What do I owe the pleasure, Mr. Jordan?
Mrs. Cord, you said a lot of things without talking face to face. I think you owe it to me to hear me out.
Mr. Jordan, before I moved to Bordertown, I lived in Wyoming. So I know what happens when ranchers take charge.
That is not fair.
Isn't it? Tell me, what are your plans for the homesteaders you uproot?
Mrs. Cord, large ranches need all kinds of support. There will be work.
So they give up their homes to work for you.
Well, maybe that is the price of progress.
Excuse me if I take issue with that. These people have left the textile mills and the slaughterhouses of the East to make their own destiny. And you're promising them a future as bleak as their past.
They do not have to sell out.
In Wyoming, the farmers who didn't sell out were burned off their lands. My husband died trying to stop that.
And I'm sorry about that, Mrs. Cord, but that has nothing to do with me.
You're a rancher. You'll do the same.
And that's where you're wrong, Mrs. Cord. I should have known. It was too much to expect a fair hearing.
Did she listen to you, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, I don't think she heard. Just wish someone would get rid of that blasted paper.
Fellow Bordertowners, my friends.
Zach?
Howdy, Marshal. What's on your mind?
Well, I just want you to know you don't have to be doing this.
Doing what?
Running in this here election on my account.
It ain't on your account, Marshal.
Oh. Well, I was just talking with Diane and,
Well, I guess I was running for you in the first place, but that ain't the reason anymore.
Oh.
No, you see, I've been thinking. I don't want it to be up to the ranchers to decide how this town's gonna be run. So I ain't so much trying to save you as I am trying to stop Jordan.
Good. Well, if you win, I'm still Marshal, right? Right?
There's someone here. Show yourself.
How's your head?
Oh, thanks for the concern, Marshal. Marie tells me that I'll have a headache for a few days. It had to be one of Jordan's men.
Can it be repaired?
The press is ruined. Bordertown has seen the last issue of the Frontier News.
Better. Now, two candidates here. We're gonna do a little speechifying, and then we'll have the vote. All right? Jordan, you call it.
Now, I've been living in Bordertown just about as long as anybody. So there ain't much I can tell you folks about me that you don't already know. Only hope some of it's good. And I intend staying in Bordertown my whole life because I like it here, just the way it is. Yeah. Nice little town where us Americans and Canadians can get along, huh? Yeah. Town where you can raise your children and live your own life. And a town where Jack Craddock can stay on as Marshal. Well, I guess I don't have too much more to say, except I would like to thank my wife, Diane, for giving me the nerve to stand up here today. Thank you, honey. And thank you, fellow Bordertowners. Thank you. Thank you. Come on, Zach.
Now, unlike Mr. Denny, I haven't been here forever, but I have chosen to live in Bordertown. And I know that if we want to stay even with the rest of the country, we've got to concentrate on cattle. Not small farms that can only feed one family. I want to make Bordertown a great town, not a ghost town. Now, I'd like to introduce to you my choice for Marshal. Rancher's Marshal. Now, I know that Zach is a good man, but as a leader, well, he makes a better bartender. Thank you.
Jeffries, you want to step down here a second?
What for, Marshal?
I'd like to talk to you.
Mr. Jeffries, are you in the habit of breaking into a newspaper office and a lady's home late at night?
What are you talking about?
What's that on your boots? Printer's ink.
You just hand me that gun.
I won't passage out of here. Get your hands off me. Shut up!
Let him go, Jeffries.
Can't do that, Marshal.
Mrs. Cord, everybody, I just want you to know that I knew nothing of Jeffrey's actions at the newspaper.
It's all right, everyone. It's all right. Fun's over. It's time to vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, the results of Bordertown's first mayoral election are as follows. Henry Jordan, 43. Zach Denny, 43.
What are we supposed to do now?
Is there anyone who is eligible to vote but who didn't?
Yeah, me. Well, I must have plumb forgot with all the excitement there before.
Marshal, you can forget what I said about Jeffries.
Now, look, I got into this for your benefit in the first place,
I didn't know anything about Jeffries in the paper. You know that.
You can drink in the saloon for free.
I don't drink, Zach.
Well, a man, coffee.
Now, Marshal, I know that if you talk to
Now,
Mr.
look,
Denny, we can come to a
I
compromise.
got
that
into
will
this
suit
in the
both
first
of
place
us.
because you
Hold
got
on,
into this for
that
these
way.
things.
Now, hold on.
Do I have to vote?
You can abstain.
What?
You don't have to vote.
All right. In that case, I ain't voting. So unless you two want to get together on this, we still ain't got no mayor here in Bordertown.
All right, what do you say, Mr. Denny?
You out of your mind? I'm gonna go with the status quo. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, this is a victory.
What are you going to do when you get to San Francisco?
For the time being, I'll work at the Chronicle. It's a good newspaper, and it's about to get better.
You will write?
Of course, Marie. It's second nature. Corporal, if I come back here, it'll be with my own press and my own money.
I understand.
Yeah.
Before you're rid of me, I want you to tell me why you didn't vote for Mr. Denny.
Well, I figured it weren't right for a lawman to be owing to anyone.
Like a journalist.
I guess so.
You're more than halfway to being a decent man, Marshal. Next newspaper I set up, I'll send you a copy.
Much obliged, ma'am.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye,
What are you going to do with a newspaper, Jack?
I don't know. Guess I'll start wallpapering my cabin.